Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Get early access to Sleep Number's biggest sale of the year. 25% off the i8 bed, our most popular. Plus free home delivery. Limited time. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in! Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz Baton Rouge Studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. Music brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Lots to get to over the next couple of hours. Jacob back, Paul O'Neill back there on the ones and twos. Fired up, you're hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. For LouisianaSports.net over the weekend, ranked LSU's position groups 1 to 10. I'm going to talk through that over the next couple of segments. It's What If Wednesday. We're still looking for a few of those. So if you're filed in the Bayou Ford chat or hearing me now, and you can catch me on Twitter at HuntPalmer88, fire a What If at us. We'll get to that. Meet the Freshmen. Still got to get to that. Some sound from the Saints as they head out to Southern California. Saints are on the ground out in Southern California. They'll go through a couple of practices and take on the Chargers on Sunday. LSU's basketball SEC schedule has been released. So we'll talk about that as well. Lots and lots to do. Let's crank things up the way we do every single day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
This is kind of going to be a 2-segment opening drive here, but we'll start it with the top half. As I mentioned there at the top, I ranked LSU's position groups 1 through 10. Started with, I went through them as they have position coaches. So the offensive line's together. I didn't split that center, guard, tackle. So you got offensive line, you got tight end, you got wide receiver, you got running back, you got quarterback, you got defensive tackles because they have a coach in Kyle Williams. You got edge players, that's Kevin Peoples. You got linebackers, Blake Baker. You've got the corners, and you've got the safeties. So I went through and split it up that way. There's 10 position groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on each side of the ball. It makes sense. How about that? So I went through and ranked them 1 through 10 for LouisianaSports.net, and I kind of want to talk through that. Now, keep in mind, and I feel like I often toss this disclaimer out, but I'm one to do those types of things. I don't want to be taken completely out of context or feel like I'm completely out of touch when things happen. This is early in camp. It's a weekend. It's what I've seen. We've gotten a decent amount of access. We've gotten probably, if I had to run the numbers there, we started on Wednesday, got like an hour and a half. Then we had Saturday, I saw about an hour and a half, so that's 3 hours. Then Monday, we saw 2 hours. I've seen about 5 hours of work at this point, which is not completely insignificant, but when you boil it down to the entirety of the season, is pretty insignificant. So I'm giving you kind of based on what I've seen with a little bit of baked-in bias based on past production, based on transfers and their rating and their production elsewhere, a little bit of position coaches baked in. So it's just kind of what I've seen, my opinion. And it starts at the top. We'll go 1 through 5 in this segment, and then we'll hit the second 5 in the following segment. I gave the edge rushers the top spot here, and that may not be the most prevalent opinion. I think there are probably some position groups that are a little bit more proven. You realize you're relying on a lot of transfers at that edge spot. But to me, I like the way this looks on paper, and I've loved the way it's looked on the field through a week. Jack Pyburn has played mostly edge, but he's certainly played some tackle as well. His production at Florida is really impressive to me. To have 60 tackles as an edge player who doesn't really play on third down for the Gators is a big deal in stopping the run. And Pyburn's physical. He's big. He's a wild man. He's done it in the SEC. I don't have to worry about transferring up from a lower level. He, to me, is a proven commodity. Then you've got Patrick Payton, who early on in the first 2 workouts I saw was really difficult to block. He notched a sack in the shoulder pad and helmet, the shells practice that we got to see. He had a monster amount of production at Florida State. He's got all the length and size you could want, and he's got Kevin Peoples coaching him. I think Patrick Payton is in for a really big year. I like what he looks like out there. He's running with the twos right now, and I think he's going to have an impactful year. Jamari Butler is big and physical and started a lot of games and played really well against Florida State last year. He's a guy that I actually was standing like right next to at practice the other day, and that's a guy like, yeah, that's just a really physically impressive dude. And he's running with the twos mostly as well. He's running a little bit with the ones, but Butler is a proven veteran commodity. He's a really good athlete who was a very good high school basketball player until he kind of stopped growing and started filling out. And Nebraska looked and said, hey, man, you might want to try football instead of trying to hang with basketball. And he did. And now you're looking at 5 years later since that decision was made, and he's a good athlete who's now 255 pounds and can really play defensive end for a Power 5 team, which he did last year for Nebraska. And then you look at the guys that are returning, and Gabe Relaford's one of those, and he's had a really good start to camp as well. Big-time recruit that LSU locked up out of Shreveport. And you talk about those four guys as the first two teams. That's a lot of proven production, a lot of athleticism with the great position coach. And then you kind of sprinkle in Dylan Carpenter, who I think, if this group wasn't as deep and talented, would probably play a good bit. I like this edge group as the best position group I've seen so far out there at LSU practice. Number two is an obvious one, and I think this would probably be number one for a lot of people. It's wide receiver. I think LSU's wide receiver group is phenomenal, and that is without Aaron Anderson doing anything right now. Hopefully today he's out there practicing. We won't know until we get out there. I know today's Wednesday, so yeah, tomorrow's their off day. They were going to try to get him practicing today. We certainly would anticipate seeing him on Friday. But either way, that's a guy who had over 800 yards receiving last year. I think he's going to be another really, really impactful player this year. Berrien Brown has been explosive in the big play passing game early on. I think Kyle Parker has had a really nice start to camp. He's catching everything, a lot of short-range stuff for Parker. Nick Anderson is healthy and going through drills, which is something we really wanted to see. He's already proven himself at the Power 4 level. Xavion Thomas is probably more involved than I thought he would be at this point. He's making some plays out there. It's a scary group, and it's, in my opinion, led by Chris Hilton, who I didn't mention there at the front because I think he deserves to be mentioned at the back as the guy who I think is going to be the leading receiver on this team. I'm going to ask the entire radio station for LouisianaSports.net station survey who they think the number one receiver on this team is going to be, who the leading receiver is going to be. My answer is going to be Chris Hilton. I think he's having another dynamite early camp, and I think he's going to be a problem for teams to deal with his speed and now his route running, the way he catches the ball, his veteran presence. Like this is high-end talent, and its depth. I think receiver is in a great spot. I've got that at number 2. Number 3 is really a star-driven pick for me here for position groups. We've got edges at 1, receiver at 2. Number 3, I'm going to go quarterback because when you've got one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the country by just about every preseason magazine, vote, coaches poll, athletic ranking, whatever you want to call it, Nussmeier comes in the top 5, top 3, top 1. I think he's going to have an awesome year if they can protect him. He's already proven that. He threw for the second highest total in the history of LSU football last year. But I have him at 3 because the backups have had their issues. They've had their issues with accuracy in 7-on-7, decision-making in 7-on-7, and then when things speed up and the pass rush is there in the 11-on-11 periods, it hasn't looked great. There have been moments, and they're the backup quarterback, so I'm not asking for phenomenal play all the time. But there have been some accuracy issues and some turnover issues for the young quarterbacks, so I can't put the group as a whole up at the top. I moved them down to number 3. So you've got edge, wide receiver, quarterback, 1, 2, 3. Number 4, I'll take tight end. I think this tight end group is really, really good, and honestly, it's too deep. I mean, J.D. LaFleur, I don't expect to see a lot from as a freshman. Donovan Green is a blocking piece that I think if it needed to be sprung into action due to injury, would be able to go out there and function. He did so at Texas A&M 2 years ago. But when you look at Bauer Sharp and Trey'Dez Green, they look great. Bauer Sharp is catching everything around the line of scrimmage. They're running a lot of screens to him. They're going to use his athleticism, and he's built to go out there and block a little bit as well. And then Trey'Dez Green, y'all know about. I don't really need to expound on that. I talked about a great play he made on the sideline yesterday right in front of me. I kind of thought he didn't get the heel in, but it was on one view. I don't get an instant replay, and everybody else, including the official, thought he got a heel in. So we'll go with it. Reception down the right sideline. But he's a freak athlete. He's doing a great job in terms of catching the ball. He's really difficult for any of these guys to cover. And so those two complementing each other, I think, is really, really advantageous for LSU. I've said this since the summer. I've said this before they put pads on. I've said this relentlessly, and I'm not in any position right now to back off of it. I don't think LSU is taking a step back in tight end, and that understands that you're losing the most productive player in the history of the school at that position. I still don't think LSU takes a step back. I think Bauer Sharp, Trey'Dez Green, and Donovan Green combined for as many catches and as many yards as last year Mason Taylor, Kamorian Pimpton, and Trey'Dez Green did. I think you're going to be what and what from that, even with the most productive player moving out. That's how much I think of this tight end group. I've got them at 4. And through the first 4 position groups, I don't really have a lot of questions outside of backup quarterback. And the plan is, if you're going to chase a championship, you don't use the backup quarterback. You may have to, and if we get to that point, you understand where I stand on that. But I don't have a lot of questions through that first 4. Question is probably not the right word for safety. I think it's just options. But I don't know who the starter is at safety, and that's what I have at number 5 to round out this front part. I think safety is in a much, much, much better spot than it was last year. Much better. And y'all know where I stand on this. I think A.J. Halsey is a starter. I've said this 3 times already. We're a week into camp. But I also think Jordan Gilbert has made some plays. He made a nice play yesterday coming up in coverage. He missed a tackle on Caden Durham's big run, but a lot of the safeties have made a mistake here or there. But Deshaun Spears is a big talent, and I think Tamarcus Cooley is such a high floor player that if you put him and A.J. Halsey out there in the first game against Clemson, I think you're going to get really solid play. Do I think that there's a better chance that Deshaun Spears is a top 20 pick in the NFL draft than Tamarcus Cooley? Yes. Do I think Tamarcus Cooley is a better college player than Deshaun Spears right now? Yes. Both of those can be true. But you're talking about a lot of options here. And if Halsey is the dude I think he is, and then you find one of these other guys to step in and play, I haven't even mentioned Toviano, but he needs to be tossed into this group, then you've got a group that is better than they were last year. Last year, they just were not any good at safety. And this year, when I look at it, I don't have big questions. I just have options. And I think those options are higher floor than you saw last year, where the floor was pretty low for LSU at safety, meaning you're getting guys ripping off 60-yard touchdown runs a lot early in the season. So that's my top 5 position groups at LSU. You got edge 1, wide receiver 2, quarterback at 3, tight end at 4, safety at 5. That's where I stand on the top half of the roster. And to be really honest, I feel great about all of those positions. I don't start to have sincere questions about LSU until really you get to at least number 8 on this list. So we'll take a timeout. We'll come back and we'll get to 6 through 10 on my position group rankings. It's a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Vaughn and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety can be a big, big issue in the bathroom, especially as folks age. Y'all know that by now. I've been telling you for over a year. And it doesn't remain any less true. If there's someone in your life that's getting up in age and you feel like there could be a hazardous situation presenting itself in the bathroom, do what you can to mitigate. You can't take that risk away. You can mitigate against it. David Vaughn and his team can do non-slip floors. They can do guardrails around slippery areas. They can do walk-in tubs that are safer, more convenient. They can do showers with benches. They do these types of things all the time. They don't have to be some massive project. They can get in there and do it in a time-effective manner and a cost-effective manner. And if you're concerned about the payment, there are financing options available, 0% up to 18 months if you qualify. Go to the website and get that free consultation. Have David come out, see the property, and have a conversation about what you'd like to do. Once you get that step done, you can move forward. And he's going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online at the website, onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from my loss, failure.
Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. At the end of this read, I'll give you the phone number for my guy, Joey Blanchard. He, of course, is the owner of Renaissance Homes and Pools. If you've been thinking all summer, it is so hot, and I just need to get that swimming pool put in. I've wanted to do it forever, and I just haven't gotten it done, and now it's just so hot I got to do it. Well, you call Renaissance Homes and Pools. That's who you call. Because Joey's been doing this for decades. He's helped dozens and dozens and dozens of Baton Rouge area families. And the best part about working with Renaissance Homes and Pools is you work with Joey directly the entire time. He's the owner. You don't get someone who might be looking at another job or who doesn't really want to be there and reports to somebody else and maybe jumps in the middle of your project and you got to deal with... No, you're going to deal with Joey. And he's going to be there because he's the owner. He's going to be there for the consultation, for the design and the layout. He'll be there for the dig. When the pool is filled and finished, you get Joey the whole time. And it's an amazing process that he really enjoys going through with you. So give him a call at 225-252-7745. Again, 225-252-7745. You can see some pictures and some videos of their phenomenal work at builtbyrenaissance.com. And you can also put your contact information there and have them contact you through the website. It's Renaissance Homes and Pools, builtbyrenaissance.com. All right, we're chugging along through my position rankings, which I did this weekend for LouisianaSports.net. Top 5 were, of course, edge number 1, wide receiver number 2, quarterback number 3, tight end number 4, and then safety number 5. So we get to number 6, and I'll be honest, we got to number 6 out of 10. We're better than halfway done, and I still feel really good about where this position is. And this is kind of a testament to where I think this roster is as a whole. Linebacker is 6, and I think LSU is going to be great at linebacker. I mean, you've got Whit Weeks, who's a proven commodity. He was second in the SEC in tackles last year. He's an All-American preseason. He's certainly an All-Conference player preseason. He's fast. He's strong. He's instinctive. He's going to be a wrecking ball for LSU's defense this year. And right now, West Weeks is running next to him. We talked to West back on Saturday, and he said he's just having a blast being out there with Week. It feels like high school again. Both of them are healthy. Obviously, both dealt with injuries last year. West forced a redshirt year. Witt's cut his bowl game short and kind of took him out for the spring. But they're finally back together playing as the starting linebackers now that Greg Penn's moved on. So they haven't really had this opportunity. And he feels like their chemistry is an advantage because they've obviously grown up together, lived together, and it's a real football house over there in the Weeks residence currently. And so those two guys are kind of the stalwarts in the middle. You've got Devon Keys, who was kind of thrust into playing duty last year because West got hurt. And he did a pretty good job late in the season, was pretty productive. I know the flashy play he made was the pick 6 against Baylor. I'll give him some credit for catching the tipped ball and for running. It was not the most difficult play he's ever made in a football uniform, but hey, he was out there, he's around the football, and he made it happen. So those are your 3 guys that are right there in the middle of the defense. And of course, you've got Perkins playing the star, which for this purposes is going to be linebacker, and he really looks good. I know that we've talked a lot in the last 3 days about the plays that he's made, but I like the fact that the 3 plays that he made were doing the things that he's best at doing. That's rushing the passer, he got a sack. That's covering in the flat. He chased down Bauer Sharp and would have made a stop at the line of scrimmage if they were going full tackle. Then he had an interception in the secondary, basically in the middle of the field against Garrett Nussmeier in 7-on-7, which was an athletic play and one he's very capable of making. I don't want him on the line of scrimmage all the time. I don't want him in the middle of the field all the time. I want him running and making plays left to right. And then when you need to get to the line of scrimmage and rush the passer in obvious passing downs, do that. But he's obviously a heck of a player, and I think LSU is in really, really good shape at the linebacker spot with really those 4 guys. Tylen Singleton is getting some run. Charles Ross is getting some run. There is some young depth there, but the guys that are going to do the majority of the playing, should everyone stay healthy, especially in that Clemson game right out of the chute, I think it's a really good position group. And for it to be ranked 6th in this ranking, I think it tells you how much I feel about LSU's entire roster. Then you get to 7, where I still feel great about where LSU is. It's running back. There's so much upside at running back. Now, Caden Durham, to me, is one of the 3 most consistent performers out there. I just have a piece up at LouisianaSports.net. You can go read why I feel this way. But my top 3 performers through a week of spring ball are obviously Bernard Gooden, who's caught everyone's eye. And then I have Ashton Stamps, who I talked about yesterday on the show, who I think is having a great camp. And Caden Durham was my 3rd guy. He's just so consistent. He's busted a big run every day we've been out there. And what I've loved about Caden Durham is his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. If you remember, which you'll all remember the South Alabama play, threw the swing pass to him on the first play of the game, and he took it 80 yards, touchdown. That shows what he can do. But he also had a big touchdown catch in the second half against UCLA that he caught and railed on the left sideline, which was awesome. He can do that as well as run and hit the home run ball. And I really like his ability. Hester said that he thinks he can be a first-team All-League back. I don't disagree with that. I think the offensive line needs to get it together for him to do that, but you got time to get those guys together. Caleb Jackson has lost some weight and I think has a lot of talent. And I told you yesterday that Harlem Berry is really working a lot with the first team as the second back. And so those three guys are getting the lion's share of the reps. And if you're going to add Juwan Johnson to this mix, which it appears they are, I like that wrinkle too. And it adds to the depth, which was my biggest concern with running back from the start. If you go out there and you just have Caden Durham, Caleb Jackson, Harlem Berry, JT Lindsey, well, you got one guy who's proven himself in Durham. You've got one guy in Caleb Jackson who, big, fast, strong, yeah, productive, no. And you got two true freshmen. That's not enough juice in that room. That's not enough depth. Well, if you add Juwan Johnson to it, who we know is a dynamic athlete, who put up the most total yards and touchdowns in Louisiana high school history, now all of a sudden, if that's your fifth guy who maybe is really your third or fourth guy, depending on the situation, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. You got the high-end talent that's there with Durham. You do have some guys to back him up. I like where running back is. I can't put it any higher than seventh because there are some questions towards the back end there with freshmen and a transplanted player in Juwan Johnson, but I love Durham, and I think he's going to be awesome. So that's 7 at running back. Now you get to this spot in the roster, and it took us down to 8, which is a pretty long way down the list here to get to some sincere questions. It starts at cornerback. I don't have a lot of questions right now about Ashton Stamps. You just heard me say I think he's been among the best players on LSU's roster this fall, this camp. I think he's going to have a really good year. Mansour Delane has had a good camp. He looks good physically. He did have some pass interference issues and some touchdown issues last year at Virginia Tech, but he also had some really good games. He's caught some professional attention with his tape. He's got some ability. But would I call him a lockdown, proven SEC corner? Not right now. And then you got PJ Woodland, who is undersized, although he's had a good camp. You've got DJ Pickett, who is freakishly tall, but is trying to get his feet on the ground. And they're, as we talked about yesterday, throwing him to the fire. He's going against Chris Hilton on every rep, and Chris Hilton's the best wide receiver I think LSU's got. So he's learning fast. But you've got questions about those guys. Now, I'll tell you this, because I gave a lot of credit to Kevin Peoples for my thought at edge being the top on this list. I credit Corey Raymond with being able to develop corners. So while I do have question marks about this group, I have confidence in the guy who's molding it. And so you look at Stamps potentially emerging as a true number 1. You look at Delane as a proven veteran who can maybe take one more step forward as a college player and be a solid number 2. And then you've got choices, whether it's Jakeem Jackson, PJ Woodland, DJ Pickett, for the next guy who's going to step up and be a really serviceable player for LSU. I think you're going to take your lumps here at times. You're not going to be a no-fly zone here. But I do think there's real potential. At this point, those question marks are going to be more pronounced than the positions I've gone 1 through 7. So I've got to drop corner down towards number 8. But it's not as if I think this is a crisis at cornerback. I do not. I think there are just some question marks that need to be figured out over the next 3 weeks before you play 3 damn good wide receivers at Clemson with a quarterback who could be a first-round pick. We think it's going to be a first-round pick this coming year. So cornerback is number 8. Number 9, only got 2 left here in my position rankings. I got defensive tackle here. Now look, there's real upside here, defensive tackle. If I do this exercise in November, it wouldn't surprise me if defensive tackle made the top 5. But right now, I'm in wait-and-see mode with it. Because Bro and McKinley played last year. Do I know they've taken a step forward? I can't speak to that right now. Certainly very possible. Certainly very plausible even that they have. But I haven't seen it quite yet. And those are the first 2 guys that were out there. We are ranting and raving about Bernard Gooden, and for great reason. He's been a good, if you want to use a terrible play on words. He's been awesome. Probably the best player out there in terms of impact through a week. Let's see it come game time. from the American to practice to the games. I think there's reason to think he's going to be very good, but it's early. Jacoby and Guillory coming off the Achilles injury. What does that look like? You haven't really seen anything from Sydir Mitchell or Sean Washington. You got 3 freshmen. They got a lot of bodies, but a defensive tackle, I'm not completely sold on this group at this point. Again, I may come at you by Halloween and go, well, nobody can block Gooden. He's as impactful an interior pass rusher as there is in the Southeastern Conference. Bro and McKinley have emerged as true SEC high-end players. Bro's getting in the backfield. McKinley's making TFLs. And Jacoby and Guillory is exactly what we thought he is. He's holding the point of attack. He's making some plays at the line of scrimmage and letting those linebackers do their work. And Westweek talked about that with us on Saturday. He said, look, these guys are doing a great job of letting us play a little bit more free. The game's a little bit slower for us because they're disrupting so much on the offensive line. So I'm not down on defensive tackle, but I have to rank them 1 to 10. Somebody's got to go 9th. And I'm going to go with the position that doesn't have a single player that I would suggest has proven himself at the highest level of college football. You can't say that for Bro. Can't say that for McKinley. Can't say that for Gooden. Can't say it for Guillory. Guillory's been a depth piece, so you can call him that, but certainly not a proven starting commodity, and neither for Mitchell or Washington. So potential's there. Right now, I'm not completely sold, and it should come as no surprise based on yesterday's opening monologue what position group I've got at 10. It's the offensive line. And again, this is another group that's got some potential. They've got to play a little bit better. And what I will continue to talk about with the offensive line, because this is optimism season. Y'all know that August is optimism season. I've talked about that since I've got a microphone in front of me. Like, this is the most optimistic time of the year for everybody. If you're a low-end program, could be a year that you're sneaking up on people. If you're a mid-tier program, could be a year that you really contend for a conference title. If you're a high-end program, here's why we're winning the Natty. Like, that's what August is for. So I'm going to continue to stay in tune with that. And I'm not going to go nuts on the offensive line. I don't think there's reason to go nuts on the offensive line. But what I'm clinging to is that the folks that have watched the one-on-ones, Matt's done it for us and has written about it on LouisianaSports.net. He's talked about it on his show. I've read at other different sites who have watched those reps. And I've been watching 7-on-7, and Matt's taking the one-on-ones. So we've split for those, and we'll probably flip that next week when we go back out there. But apparently the offensive line is doing a really good job in one-on-ones. They're showing their length and athleticism. They're all 4- and 5-star players. They've got a position coach who's been at this a long time and is really respected. I think there's potential. They've had the biggest issues this week in camp. That's difficult to debate. It would be tough for me to take any of the other 9 position groups and find more pronounced issues than I've seen from the offensive line. However, they've got a lot of time to gel together. It's a group that's never played with each other before, and it's a position group that is quite literally built on connectivity and playing together as one unit. That's what's got to happen. So that's what I've got at number 10. So to start at the top, I've got Edge as the number 1 position group at LSU thus far in camp. Wide receiver 2, quarterback 3. That's more based on depth than anything, and the fact that the backups have struggled a tad bit. Tight end at 4, I think they're going to be awesome. Safety at 5, I think they've got a real chance to be great. Linebacker at 6, proven commodities there for sure. Running back at 7, love Durham, need more behind him. Corner at 8, I like the position coach, and I think he's got some options. Tackle at 9 on the defensive side, defensive tackle. Again, looks pretty good in practice. We'll see as they move forward. And then number 10, the offensive line. You can give me your thoughts on that in the Bayou Ford chat or on Twitter at HuntPalmer88. Speaking of those 2 avenues, get your what ifs in. We'll come back and do What If Wednesday next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
We'll meet the freshmen in the next segment. Some Saints sound in hour number 2, plus LSU's basketball schedule is out. So lots to do here on this Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Every single Wednesday, we're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Saints getting closer to their first preseason game. That'll crank up on Sunday afternoon from L.A. So a lot of that discussion coming up probably on Thursday and Friday shows. The media now settled there in Southern California. They'll be taking in some practice over the next couple of days. Saints not joint practicing with the Chargers, but we'll play them on Sunday. So get some good Saints content coming at you on Thursday and Friday's shows. But right now, though, it's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
Alrighty, first one here. What if restaurants no longer existed and there were only food trucks?
That'd be a major bummer because I love a good dinner experience. I like to get dressed and go to a nice dinner where there's a waiter and you're there for 2 hours. Plus, here, if I can't sit down in a restaurant to enjoy lunch or dinner, it's going to be 97 for like 5 months out of the year.
It's a real problem.
Is a bit of an issue to just sit there and eat. I don't care about the heat if I'm at the pool, or honestly, if I'm even running or if I'm playing golf, I don't really care about the heat. Just sitting there eating a sandwich, it's kind of hot. So I'm pro food truck in a big way. Love a good food truck experience here and there. But I love a restaurant, and I want to go, have a, scotch and a big steak and do that whole experience deal. I don't do it a ton, but I like to do it. If that was not available, I'd be a little bummed about that.
Yeah, man, we'd be in trouble in Louisiana, especially Baton Rouge. It'd be a serious problem if you couldn't go inside. I mean, I guess if there were only food trucks, you would just go get the food and you'd have to go home or go somewhere to eat inside.
You'd have to put up a bunch of tents places or something like they did in COVID.
Yes.
Everybody was tenting the parking lot and trying to go out
the fan companies in Louisiana.
I think at some point that
prosper.
becomes a restaurant, doesn't it?
Yeah, it basically is at that point.
So I'm pro restaurant. Let's keep them around.
Yeah, I agree with you. Next one. What if the O-line isn't that good? Example, of course, would be Jaden Daniels' first year.
I've talked about this a lot. If they're not good, it pretty much derails the whole deal. If you can't run the ball and teams can just pin their ears and go get Garrett, just go look at the A&M game last year in the second half. When A&M determined, okay, LSU can't run, and they just started releasing the dogs, the whole offense just combusted. So that's just a big deal. I don't want to talk about it any further for this answer, but I think everyone understands that.
Yeah. Well, inversely, what if LSU's offensive line is struggling because the defensive line is that good?
I don't know that that's impossible. That very well could be a part of the deal here. I think that you've got some real talented defensive linemen on this group, and they're deep, and they're rotating guys in, and they're fresh. I mean, this is not like they're playing their 81st snap, 91st snap of the day when I watch them in practice, like they could be if you face a team that's holding the ball a lot. They're giving you 20 reps of full out football every time in practice, and that's a lot to handle with some of these guys. And these aren't freshmen. Dak Pyburn's a 5th-year dude. Patrick Payton's a 5th-year dude. Jamari Butler's a 4th-year dude. Gabe Relaford's old. Jacobian Guillory's a 6th-year player. Bernard Gooden is a 5th-year player. These guys are old. And so if you look at it, they're a handful. And so I'm not at all ruling out that LSU's offensive line has had its struggles when they struggled. And keep in mind, they have made some plays on offense. It's not like the offense never does anything. The offense has busted a big run every day. When Nussmeier has a little bit of time, he's done a great job getting the ball down the field. He hit Kyle Parker for a big play yesterday. I think there's a real chance the defensive line is good enough to give the LSU offensive line some problems. The deal is that you continue to extrapolate that out. I think Clemson's defensive line is pretty good too. Yeah. So you got to block good defensive lines. I think they're working towards that.
All right, next one. What if Baby Beck is early?
Then you probably won't be here tomorrow.
No. And honestly, at this point, I wouldn't even say that you could say she's early. I mean, the due date is Friday, so we're 2 days out from there. So at this point, it would just be on time, in my opinion.
Well, tomorrow would be early.
Early is like 2 weeks. Like y'all's, they were 2 weeks. That's early. At this point, I don't think it would be a problem. But of course, yeah. If we're just saying the next 2 days, I'm not going to be here. So.
A lot of pool parties in the future for baby back.
Yeah,
because none for my kids. I got a December 27th and a March 9th.
Yeah, that's true.
We got good crawfish boil for March 9th. That's solid.
That's a good day.
Myers December 27th. He's just out of luck. He's never gonna have to go to school on his birthday.
That's a really rough one.
He's never gonna have to go to school on his birthday, but he's gonna have some issues with getting people to birthday parties December 27th.
My birthday is January 10th, and even I,
that was Myers' due date.
Yeah,
we had a pool party this weekend.
There you go.
My daughter's birthday is tomorrow, so we did her birthday.
I love to hear that.
Perfect.
None for the Palmer boys. You're gonna have to find another way.
All right, next one. What if you get one snack and one drink at a road trip gas station stop?
Drink is so easy. I want the biggest cup they have. The hugest, most ridiculous big gulp
like
ever
50 ounce,
of Coke Zero. I want everything you could possibly put in there.
Yeah.
And then for the snack, I have a hard time going against just your classic, the cheddar sour cream Ruffles.
Yeah.
Those are so good. I love them. Like, if I'm going to try to, go up one notch, this is pathetic, but, every gas station now you go in has slices of pizza. All the racetracks and stuff. That's really good.
See, I was gonna say if we need to stipulate whether or not you can get, the chicken or the hot dog or something like that.
I can be a sucker for that gas station pizza on occasion.
I'm going to say that we should exclude any kind of actual food. It needs to be something you're getting off the shelf. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be for me. The sour cream and cheddar Ruffles. However, I had at a friend's house over the weekend. They had Zaps, and I don't know. It was something like sweet onion or something like that. And they were really good chips, which I had never had before. So I tried. It was really good. But it's probably sour cream and cheddar Ruffles and the biggest Coke Zero I can possibly pour into a cup.
Yeah, I think I actually just discovered what my favorite snack would be now, and it's actually it's Zaps, but it's the blackened ranch. I've never seen this before.
I've never seen that at all.
It's not one of their more common flavors, but it's a blue. It's like a light blue bag. That's the color that they have on it. And it's blackened ranch, and it's the best Zaps chip that I've had.
I will definitely try that.
You got to try it.
When I go to Popeyes, I'm hitting blackened ranch every time.
Yeah, it was extremely good. And then as for a drink, I'll probably go a classic, the Arizona tea, the 99-cent
Never had it,
tall can of Arizona tea. I'll probably go with that. And a side note, I actually recently just decided on a whim to get an Old English 40 ounce. And Hunt, it actually wasn't terrible.
This is a road trip, Beck. That's an open container.
I understand.
Violation.
I understand. I'm just saying.
I've never done that. I've never had a beer on a road trip, Beck.
No.
I would never do something like that.
No, of course
That's
not.
against the law,
Of
and that
course not.
you definitely could never do that.
No, absolutely not. But I'm just saying, it actually wasn't that bad. I don't know if you ever had one.
It's been since college.
But they actually aren't
Have
that.
you ever heard of the game Edward 40
Oh,
Hands?
yeah, of course. That's a tough one. All right, last one. What if you could have free gas or free hotels for life?
I mean, I probably have to go free gas economically because I use gas every day. But man, free hotels would be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about. Even in the simplest principle, to get a free hotel, for at the beach. I can get to the beach for a couple $100 worth of gas. You can tell me I can stay for a week for free. That's a pretty good gig for the rest of my days. And then you talk about nice hotels and nicer places that you might go than just down the street to the beach. I probably got to go with gas, but I'm reluctant to do it.
Yeah, I think you have to go with gas, especially with just how much the pricing for it can fluctuate. It's a very volatile thing, and you have to have it.
My commute's a little further now.
Yeah.
I was right down the road. Now I'm about 20 minutes to work, so you start to factor that in.
You really do.
Probably gotta.
But hotels would be pretty dang awesome. I mean, that would be really cool.
I love a good hotel.
That's it for What If. I don't know why I said take it or leave it. That's it for What If Wednesday.
We'll do Take It or Leave It a little later.
We will.
That's What If Wednesday here on this Wednesday. We'll come back and meet the freshmen to close out hour one next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Just go by and see them. Just go by and see the people at Genesis of Baton Rouge. It's an incredible team that they have there. Their airline at Piku. When you stop by, you'll see how phenomenal the facility is. You'll walk in, and as I've said many times, it feels more like a spa than a car dealership. And you can see the entire inventory right there on the lot. If you'd rather do it online, you can do that as well. They told me, I was over there last week, that their best seller is, generally speaking, the GV80. It's the mid-size SUV, and it's just a gorgeous looking vehicle to get behind the wheel of. I got behind the wheel of one of them last week. It's so nice, so comfortable, so stylish. They've got the Sport Edition, which is a little sportier, and depending on your family situation, either one may work for you, and you've probably never been behind the wheel of one. So why don't you go by and see them? Say, hey, heard about this with Hunt. Can I just get behind the wheel and check it out? They'd love to give you a test drive today. You can see Maryland at Pico. Check the entire inventory online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. For that brand new pool, the pool of your dreams, the custom pool that you've always wanted, Renaissance Homes and Pools, happy to help you out with that. We're going to go through LSU's entire freshman class over the course of a 2-week period. Got two more days this week, and then the rest of next week we'll knock out every single freshman in this class for LSU. So let's do it with 2 more today. We will meet the freshmen.
Meet the freshmen. Freshmen, meet the freshmen. They're the newest Tigers on the team.
All right, let's start with Jhase Thomas. Jhase Thomas is a safety in this class from Destrehan. One of the most highly rated safeties in the country coming out of high school. He was a 4-star recruit by On3, 4 stars by 24/7, 4 stars by ESPN. He was a top 10 player in the state by ESPN and On3. And a guy that 6'1", 185 pounds or so, comes in with a lot of high credentials at Destrehan. Now, he comes into a situation where you've got a lot of upperclassmen in front of you. We talked about him in the first segment of the show today. You're talking about A.J. Halsey coming in, talking about Tamarcus Cooley coming in. Those are veteran players. Deshaun Spears and Joel Rogers right there in front of him as well, Javian Toviano. So that's 5 guys right there who are older players that are going to get to the field more quickly than Jhase Thomas. So it's a comfortable spot for him to come in and just learn. And I think he's learning from a lot of really good players because – and you're learning from a lot of different players. You got a lot of versatility there. I didn't mention Jordan Gilbert, who's certainly a very old player. So for Thomas, I don't see a route to the field for him there. They like his frame. They like his speed. And LSU has certainly made good on a lot of players from Destrehan over the years. So you obviously got the Jeffersons, and Glenn Logan went to Destrehan. He added Phillip Wright this past year with Jhase Thomas. And so Destrehan's been very, very good to LSU, and Jhase Thomas is kind of the next in that line. Zach Weeks is the second freshman that I want to talk about. I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about him because his story is obviously very interesting. You're familiar with his older brothers, right? Clearly. But Zach is bigger than his older brothers. West is a fifth-year player, and Witt is a third-year player. And Zach, who should be a senior in high school, remember, he reclassified to come to LSU a year early, should be in high school, and he's bigger than them. LSU, make sure I've got this correct. I didn't bring the roster printed out, so I'll look it up. But Zach, first of all, when you go out to practice, you can look at Zach Weeks and tell that he's bigger than Witt and West, which is hilarious considering the age disparity. And I have to just think about the obscene grocery bills in the Weeks house over the course of the time when you had 2 high schoolers and an 8th grader who was growing up to be that massive a human. But in any event, mom and dad got him fed, and now they're at LSU playing linebacker. And Zach is listed at, he's number 37 or so. My internet's not going, but I think he's listed at 240 pounds. There it is, 6'3", 240. So West, who's 4 years older than him, is 6'2", 235. So it's hilarious to look at. But Zach is big. He is fast. He is physical. And the consensus from the people who knew them in high school was that Zach was the best. Now, West ended up at Virginia, and then Witt ended up at LSU and has become an all-SEC player and a stud. But the ceiling for Zach might be higher because you're talking about, it's not unreasonable at all to suggest that Zach Weeks, when he gets to the field, whether that's next year or the year after, as a 19-year-old, is going to be 6'3", 250 pounds. Like, that is a big dude, and he runs really well. Now, I don't think they're going to ask him to do much of anything this year, especially at linebacker. But he joins a freshman class that's got 5 guys in it that are going to be competing against one another for the heir apparency to Zach's older brothers. Devon Keys is right above them, and Tylen Singleton's right above them. But like Xavier Atkins moved on, you don't have Greg Penn. So you got 5 freshmen coming up behind West, Witt, and Perkins who are all going to be gone. And I think Zach is probably behind Charles Ross in that pecking order. But again, Ross has worked a little bit at the star position. So maybe Zach is the guy who, with Keelan Moses, who you're competing with there, on the interior is a potential starter next year in what should be his first year in college. But it's not. And physically, he's going to be looked the part already. So I'm really high on Zach Weeks. That's probably biased because I know what his brothers are, but that's part of the equation here. If you look at his ranking relative to the class he reclassified to, you're talking about a guy who's in a state ranking 100th, 41st, 24th, depending on where you're looking, but a 4-star by 24/7 and Rivals. And Rivals actually had him as the number 8 linebacker in that class with the reclassification. So he's someone to get excited about. You put on the back burner, you don't worry about it the rest of this year, but I think that Zach Weeks has a very, very bright future in Baton Rouge, and hopefully his older brothers have monster years this year and move on to the NFL. He's probably next. So Zach Weeks next up on that list. So that's Jhase Thomas and Zach Weeks, part of your Meet the Freshman here on this Friday. If you missed any of the first hour, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. I spent the first 30 minutes going through my ranking of LSU's position groups. You can find it for free on LouisianaSports.net. If you'd like to listen to it, go ahead and check it out wherever you find your podcast, wherever you find your sound, Hunt on LSU, or search The Hunt Palmer Show. It'll all end up right there. We're going to pause for national headlines for SportsCenter. When we come back, we'll hear from some of the Saints who have landed in Southern California. Basketball to get to as well. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.